Good evening and welcome. You're watching the Newshour Agenda, India's most loved primetime show at 10. I'm Padmaja. For the last few days, when the world was fixated on the Queen's funeral, something else was also unfolding in the UK. A tension that started on the 28th of August, supposedly after an India-Pakistan match, then bubbled over into full-blown clashes on the 17th of September. In the course of those clashes, at least one temple was defiled, a saffron flag was torn down, community members claimed that another saffron flag was also burned, several houses and shops were attacked. But curiously, despite all of this, some have turned this case on its head and have read deep Hindutva militancy into an attack on a temple. So a temple got attacked, and what are we talking about? Hindu extremism creeping into the UK. While a TMC spokesperson advised that Hindutva extremism must be flagged after what happened in Leicester because these overseas extremist groups also fund the BJP, and if not curbed, the threat of Hindutva extremism will grow. Another leader of the CPM opined that communal tension in India is now being exported, and the reason for this export is to benefit the RSS, which presumably will now also be working in the UK. So the question is, how did an attack on a community become an attack by the community? Isn't it strange that after a temple is attacked, somehow the only thing horrifying people is the rise of Hindutva extremism and RSS influence in the United Kingdom? And finally, what really happened in Leicester still remains very, very foggy. Was this basically a battle for control, a street fight, clashes between different gangs, a law and order issue between two groups is being given a communal color? Let's find out.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
All right, joining us right now is Touseef Ahmad, advocate, Anirban Banerjee, political analyst. We'll be joined by Gokul Chandran in a bit. Manju Khajuria, somebody who's a very vocal citizen, rights activist, now based in the UK for the last decade and more. Dishita Kumar, somebody who is from Leicester, was an eyewitness to the vandalism that happened. But my first question is to Wasiq. Wasiq, who's a counter-extremism analyst in London. Wasiq, let's just get facts right first. The suggestion from some journalists from the UK is that this is basically a law and order situation that is being given a communal color. It was just a gang fight. What is your analysis?
So, well, thank you for having me on. The situation that's unfolded in Leicester presents the British Security Service with two issues. The first is that there's a regional Islamist network operating. And so when we're thinking about that, are they jumping on any issue and making it into a Muslim one? And the second point for the security services is what realistic comparative threat is there between the so-called Hindutva extremists and Islamist extremism? So we need to be clear about something here. Law-abiding British Muslims and Hindus are being caught up in a manufactured conflict, seeking to replicate what's happening in other parts of the world. Leicester is and has been seen as a beacon of multi-ethnic and religious example. Both the Muslim and Hindu community there have lived in peace and harmony for many years. But when a minor scuffle takes place as a result of India's win over Pakistan in the cricket, we saw this snowball into an uncontrollable situation. And so this then presents those questions then for law enforcement, is that are they able to deal with it? And is it perhaps being blown out of proportion in terms of comparing the two supposed threats between each other?
So let me ask you directly, how did it start? Right now, when people in India are looking at Leicester, they're saying, oh, this is right-wing extremism. These are Hindu extremists who have basically taken their bigotry from India across the border into UK. Is that what is happening?
Well, I think we need... Yeah, well, I think we need to be balanced in this. There may be some of that that's come through, and there may be some that's localized the threat. Now, what we do know is that since India's win over Pakistan during the cricket, some people were rightly celebrating, and they were celebrating on the streets. We see that quite often, whether it's Eid celebrations, Diwali celebrations, or Vaisakhi celebrations. Now, as a result of that, people were drunk and people were misbehaving, and we saw obviously some antisocial behavior. And then this starts to snowball, and then people start to manufacture that it's a situation where Hindus are now attacking Muslims, Muslims are attacking Hindus. And so we need to be proportionate in our response to this, and really take a considered approach when we're looking at this.
Fair enough. This is, at worst, a clash between two communities. At best, this is something that was coming out of a cricket match and things went completely out of hand. But what one cannot understand, Anirban Banerjee, that how did this turn into quote-unquote Hindutva extremism? People who are basically sitting at home are having their homes vandalized, and then it becomes their fault. The only visible sign of vandalism right now is a temple that has been desecrated, a saffron flag that has been burnt, and some Hindu houses who have recorded their, a group of individuals who are tearing off a saffron flag and attacking their house front. How is this Hindu extremism, Anirban Banerjee?
So yeah,
the last time I was on this topic debating, there was a citizen from Leicester, from the United Kingdom, who claimed very unabashedly that Hindus were attacked by Muslims. I mean, these lines, these are so identical to us back home in India, who are every day, every minute fighting these communal fascists, that this is a very identical script. We hear these lines repeatedly from the RSS BJP gang. They will always try to label everything and anything as Hindu versus Muslims. It is as if it is their birthright to represent the Hindu community as a whole. But it's not. The Hindu community as a whole is not represented by anyone.
Nobody is claiming to represent the Hindu community as a whole. If Manju Khajuria stays in the UK, she is representing herself.
So therefore, when
and she is saying that people that she has spoken to and people that she knows who are Hindus have been attacked. Now, how is that a script or similar to this fascism that you very gallantly are fighting every day?
Why? Yeah, we are fighting and maybe you are supporting. So the difference is that whenever there is an attacker and a victim, why is it so necessary that you have to bring in their religious identity?
Okay, let's ask Manju Khajuria that. Why bring in the... Okay, now you've asked a reasonable question.
It's a law and order question.
It's a law and order question. Why are you dragging in religious identity, Manju Khajuria?
Well, Padmaja, to your first question, I think a very important point that needs to be highlighted is that by this time, 100 Hindu properties have been damaged. From 4th to 7th September, there have been straight nights of terror for neighborhoods which had predominantly Hindu families living. And these are not very affluent neighborhoods. They are working class families, very law abiding. These families were terrorized, and the doors that were broken into, the cars that were damaged, were picked up on the basis of the Hindu markers, as in any door which had an Om written on it, any door which had written like Shubh Labh on it, or any car which had a Ganesh on it, which are very common things which Hindus do. These were the houses and these were the cars, and this is how they were selected. And the first incident, in fact, was when...
Sir, Madam, for your kind information...
Let me finish, Mr. Banerjee, I did not interrupt you.
May I just give one information, one bit of information?
Was that a Ganpati...
No, I'm not interrupting you, just one bit of information. Back in India, Shah Rukh Khan...
Just a second, sir, just a second. Mr. Banerjee, I will give you time. Since you asked a specific question of why religion is being brought in, now you are being given the reason. So listen to it and then respond. Go on.
One of the houses in the very, probably on the 4th or the 5th of September, the houses that was attacked, eggs were thrown. This was a house where the doors were open and a Ganpati Pujan was happening. This is around Ganesh Chaturthi, right? So throwing of eggs into a house which has Ganpati Pujan happening, people are sitting, people are walking in and out, is a very clear indication. And this in no terms, and we cannot whitewash this or reduce it, but the fact remains that this is an attack on peaceful Hindus by Islamist extremists. I am not saying Muslims, because we have liberal, moderate Muslims who are supporting these Hindus, who have been voicing it publicly. So not the moderate Muslim community, but these are Islamist
the UK police is a failure.
That is why you will...
No, hold on a second.
The UK police is a
Hold
failure.
on a second. I mean, just when you've been robbed of your chance of labeling Manju Khajuria some kind of rabid anti-Muslim bigot, because she recognizes that these people do not represent all of Islam and they only represent a bunch of Islamist fundamentalists, you suddenly change the goalpost. You ask, sir, why is the religious identity being brought in? Now you are told that it is because these people were identified as Hindus,
so she should question the UK police.
Sir, my question to you is, okay, let's not please start this tangential tutu meme, which basically is the is the ultimate aim of everyone who wants to derail a debate. I want to steer it back. My question to you is, Manju Khajuria is telling you 100 households have been attacked because they were identified as Hindu households. How did this become about Hindutva extremism when Hindus were at the receiving end?
Fine, what? I'll tell you. That is what she is claiming, right? Will she make this very claim before the police? Will she go and tell that, boss, here are some Islamic terrorists, you are a failure, you cannot control the terrorists? Will she do that? No, she will not. Is there a FIR? Is she naming them, these Islamic terrorists that she is recognizing?
Okay, answer that. Answer that. Yes, go on. Answer. Yes.
First of all, let me just clarify that many amongst the Indian diaspora, including me, have written not only to the Leicester Police, but even to Birmingham Police today, where there have been called by Islamists to come and protest. Peaceful protest, so-called peaceful protest in front of a Durga Mandir. So we have written to not only the police, but to our councillors, to our MPs, and I'm an Indian citizen living in UK. So I have also written to my High Commission, and High Commission has released a statement. So let us be very clear that this is about the security and protection of Hindus. And when we say that Islamist extremists are doing this and not a liberal, moderate Muslim community, we should take the example, or we should rather look into this, that Majid Freeman, who was peddling fake news about the Leicester events and whose statements have been refuted by the Leicester police, is now known to have been supporting terrorists belonging to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. How many more examples do we need? There are other very well-known radical Islamists who have been anti-Semitic, not just anti-Hindu.
Therefore, what
there is a problem, Mr. Banerjee looks like he has a problem with Hindus. So we have other players in this Leicester event who have been openly anti-Semitic.
Don't give me these statements. I hear these every day from the RSS BJP people. You also are a part of that. You are also part of that Sangh Parivar, the head spreading team.
Okay, going by your logic, sir. Okay, now this is a pointless name calling, because I suspect you do not have answers.
Then he's calling me something else.
Yeah, to the central question. No, please.
Hates Hindus.
No,
who is she? This is the same kind of certification that the BJP leaders give us every day.
Okay.
We hear this
silence, please, because this is not the kind of name calling tutu meme, which again will only go towards completely derailing the debate. Still sticking to the central question, and let me get in Gokul Chandran, you seem very horrified by the fact that Hindus, these militant Hindus, are now taking their hateful, bigoted, right ideology to the UK. You've just heard an entire explanation of how it was Hindu establishments, Hindu houses, and I will play you now one video where one resident in Leicester has recorded people attacking his car. And that mob then subsequently comes and uproots a saffron flag from in front of his house. According to you, this is his fault that somebody is coming and attacking his car and attacking his house. How?
Yeah, good evening, Padmaja.
Good evening.
See, we have seen a lot of videos, lot of narration, what has happened in UK. But my only fear is that such Hindutva thugs who are creating trouble in various countries, are putting our nation's reputation to shame.
How?
Because of such people, tomorrow, what will happen is the people from India.
What are you ashamed of? That they are standing up and saying, don't attack us?
No, Padmaja, you are seeing only the one side. Why don't you see the whole episode, what has happened? The Hindus.
What is the whole episode?
Living in UK.
Let's talk. How? What did they do?
Those rowdies, the Hindutva rowdies were chanting Jai Shri Ram and all those things.
Oh, so that's what they did. They chanted Jai Shri Ram.
Yeah, if they want to do all this nonsense.
So you're agonized that people got together after they were attacked and chanted Jai Shri Ram.
Padmaja, let me complete. Why they want to put the risk of our normal Hindus?
Normal
Hindu?
Hindu?
Put our lives into risk. Normal Hindus who are living in UK and other European countries.
I suspect normal Hindus also say Jai Shri Ram.
No. Normal Hindus don't
have been
shout Jai Shri Ram in the streets and call for violence. Normal Hindus never do that.
So you're saying that the attack on people's houses, their livelihoods and their temples do not horrify you. What horrifies you is that they got together afterwards, marched in solidarity and said Jai Shri Ram, thereby bringing great infamy to you and your country, Gokul Chandran.
Gravity of the situation. Tomorrow, when you are applying for a UK visa,
what
seeing
you
that
say,
you are a Hindu, the UK government will deny you a visa because already the name of the Hindus has been tarnished by this Hindutva gang.
All right. So essentially, the words of wisdom here are that if you are attacked, just sit tight because God forbid tomorrow those coming behind you might be denied a visa. Go on, Dishita Kumar.
So basically what you're saying is, firstly, we're going to beat you up in your own home, knock down your doors, but you're not even allowed to cry and ask for help. And if we do that and go out in support of our Hindu families and say Jai Shri Ram to give strength, then we are called Hindutva. And firstly, sir, do you even know what Hindutva is? Do you know what Hindutva is?
The Gujaratis who are living in UK, seeing the Gujarat election in place,
if you are using the word Hindutva, do you even know what that means?
Shame on RSS for doing such things in...
Okay, first of all, you have with you on your panel two people who are living in the UK, are practicing Hindus, I dare say rather proud, not Gujaratis, law-abiding, peace-loving citizens, but who equally believe, Gokul Chandran, that if they are going to be attacked, they are going to speak up, visa or no visa. Let Dishita finish what she's saying, then you can respond. Yes, Dishita.
Let them come back to India.
Why should they come back to India? Why can't they practice their religion peacefully where they are living? What rot is this? That if you get out and you're practicing your religion peacefully, you will be attacked. Otherwise, come back to India. Why? Why should they live in UK and practice their religion?
The rowdy elements from India calling Jai Shri Ram, calling for Hindu Rashtra.
Okay, hold on a second. I don't know what your idea of Hindu Rashtra is. Just a second. Please let Dishita respond. Then I want you to actually listen to something. Since you're so angry, outraged and upset, let Dishita respond to you. Are you a Hindutva extremist shouting Jai Shri Ram, Dishita?
I will happily say Jai Shri Ram, and I don't understand. I live in a country where there's freedom of speech. If I say that this slogan has been chanted for 10,000 years, how is it suddenly something that you guys are being instigated by? It's ridiculous.
Okay, let me now actually play out for you, because this whole thing about there were these bunch of rowdies. After going through a fair number of videos, I can't claim to have seen all of them. But I did go out looking for videos to show how this was an equal opportunity crime. Let's play out for you what we saw in terms of what is being seen as provocation. This video where there was a community march of people saying Jai Shri Ram. And let's then decide whether they all should be denied a visa next time. Listen to this.
Do this. Is it?
Yeah, you know, hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
You know how we say Allah, where basically they've got their own chant. What, and they're allowed to do this?
So you saw this one video. Now I want you to listen to a man who actually got people together from outside of Leicester And here he is talking about Hindus. Let's see if you find this outrageous or what you think is Hindutva extremism. Let's listen to this man called Muhammad Hijab. Listen to him.
All due respect, actually no due respect, yeah? If they believe in reincarnation, what a humiliation and pathetic thing for them to be reincarnated into some pathetic, weak, cowardly people like that. I'd rather be an animal. I'd rather be reincarnated as a grasshopper, bro. That's the truth. So how comes now in Leicester, the Hindutva are coming out, yeah? And you're trying to act like gangsters? You're trying to act like gangsters. Come on, man. You're not about that life. Don't ever. I'm saying this directly to all the so-called Hindutva wannabe gangsters. Don't ever come out like that again. Do you understand? No chance. Are they going to come out like that again? Never. Are they going to come out like that again? Never. Because if they do come out, are we going to be here, yes or no? Yes.
Who's an extremist now, Gokul Chandran?
Yeah,
The man is literally saying these people they believe in reincarnation, they're reincarnated as a bunch of pathetic people. I'd rather be an animal. And you're not even supposed to react to that because you become an extremist.
Padmaja, they are not Indians. I can talk only about Indians and my Indians who are putting India into shame. I can talk only about them.
So you're telling your fellow Indians, somebody comes to your door, attacks you, calls you names, calls you pathetic, mocks your religion, attacks your places of worship, you should just shut up and sit tight. Why?
Padmaja, did you read?
Because they'll put you to shame. You are ashamed of what? For people standing up for themselves.
No. See, why they are covering the face? If they are so much clean and they are angels, why they have to mask up their face, put hoods on their head and do all these things? Why don't they have the guts to show their face? Because they are doing something wrong. They are instigating and doing wrong things.
Okay, let Manju Khajuria respond to that. Okay, actually let Wasiq respond to that. Who are the extremists in your opinion when you've seen all the reactions so far, Wasiq?
Sorry, could you just repeat that again, please?
You've heard both the reactions. There's a group of people who are going out. They're saying Jai Shri Ram. There's another bunch who's basically saying, we'll be here to meet the Hindutva gangs. They are a bunch of pathetic people talking about reincarnation. Who's the most shameful behavior?
So the first thing I think we need to just point out is saying Jai Shri Ram, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a religious slogan. And in fact, as one of your other commentators said, in Britain we have freedom of speech and we have freedom of religion. And that's one of the things that we actually enjoy very well here. When you have individuals who are obviously targeting anyone because of their religion, and in this case, it appears that it seems to be directed directly at Hindus, then we can quite clearly see that this is then anti-Hindu rhetoric and bigotry that then could manifest itself into religious violence. We need to be also clear about something, and I think one of these things is missing from the analysis, is that Islamist extremism has been an issue that has gripped not only Britain but the world for the last 2 decades, particularly Salafi jihadism. But we don't see the same in terms of so-called Hindutva extremists. So when we think about even Britain itself in terms of who they prescribe as terrorist group, so far, in terms of India alone, when we're talking about importing extremist threat, we're talking here about Jaish-e Mohammed, Indian Mujahideen and Harakat Mujahideen. We don't have any Indian equivalent or Hindu equivalent of a terrorist group being prescribed here. So again, when we're thinking about the threat that's being posed, Islamists are posing a direct threat to Hindus, and I think this is quite worrying.
This is very worrying actually for Touseef Ahmad, because the whole premise of his argument is that there is rampant, free-ranging Hindutva extremism, and for you to say there is nothing comparable to the actual Islamic extremism that Britain is facing must be heartbreaking. Touseef Ahmad, how is this about Hindutva extremism?
You see, there is a pattern with the mobs inciting violence and rioting in India and the mobs doing violence in Leicester. You see all the statements that have come from the Leicester mayor or the East Leicester MP highlights 2 points. One, the use of misinformation and social media in inciting the violence, and 2, the role of Indian media in activating all these sleeper cell of Sangh Parivar terrorists in UK, which has led to this violence. You see,
I'm sorry, whose analysis is this?
The slogan,
this Indian media activating sleeper cells. I suspect this might be a Touseef analysis.
Now have patience, have patience.
Which you have conveniently attributed to some member of parliament and also the police chief.
Please be a...
And the military intelligence. Who exactly has spoken of this
good girl.
sleeper cell?
Please behave like a good girl, like you used to be maybe in school.
I do not appreciate... Okay, first of all, Touseef Ahmad,
I am talking about
thank you for joining us. I do not need you and your very patronizing tone on my show. I am not a good girl, sir.
You are
I am extremely unforgiving to people who are patronizing on my show. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. I'll give the final word to Manju Khajuria, who I suspect is also a very thoughtful lady as opposed to a good girl. Manju Khajuria, I will quote to you from something that has been written vis-a-vis this entire violent episode in the New Independent. It says the first incidents happened on 28th August after a cricket match between India and Pakistan. Groups of young Indian fans started roaming Leicester streets chanting Pakistan Murdabad and assaulted at least one bystander. Then Hindus from Leicester shared videos of a gang of presumably Muslim men attacking property. That's when things started getting out of control. The report suggests that it was an unprovoked attack on Muslims by over-enthusiastic Hindu groups after an India-Pakistan match that was at the bottom of it.
But I'll quickly, because, you know, when we were talking about that protest march, the videos which we saw, I wanted to point out the timeline, and you're giving me an opportunity to do that. On 28th August, definitely there was an altercation between fans who were supporting India and Pakistan, and it took a turn for the worse only when an Indian flag was pulled and this particular Pakistani fan or the Pakistan team's fan tried to desecrate the flag. This was the first event, but then from 4th to 7th September, there were like 3 to 4 nights of terror in these neighborhoods where primarily Hindu families live. And when an appeal was made from these different, multi-faith leaders, the Muslim leaders and the Hindu leaders, the Hindus sat back and waited, whereas these neighborhoods were continued, to be terrorized. That's when, and in according to the British laws, you have the right to self-organize and take out a protest march in case you're feeling threatened or you do not feel safe. So though the Hindu community groups and Hindu leaders are working closely with the British authorities and the British police, they did fail to protect the Hindu families. As I clearly told you that at least 100 Hindu properties have been damaged, and these were identified and marked because of the Hindu symbols they bore in some form or the other. This is what happened. And again, everybody from the Indian diaspora and the British Hindu diaspora is saying this is the act of Islamist extremists who have been anti-Semitic, who have, known to be grooming British girls, who have done things like this in the past, and growing radicalization. And as Wasiq pointed out, Islamic radicalism in Britain is a problem. This is exactly what the Hindu groups are trying to say. And with Navratri coming, Leicester, let me point out, is where after India the biggest Diwali celebration takes place. Not now, for many years now. And also Navratri is coming. And East Leicester, where all this is happening, is actually Claudia Webb's. This is her constituency, who has very openly anti-Hindu and anti-India stance. So she has failed to represent and protect her own constituents.
I'm going to leave it at that. The thing is, there is a recognition increasingly within Britain, among security analysts, that there is a real and present problem. This could have been a law and order problem. This could be a larger malaise. There are outsiders, other groups who came in, got involved, vitiated the atmosphere. But to completely ignore all of that, even ignore the law and order issue, and suddenly try and paint it as a Hindutva extremism problem, you have to be really, really desperate to try and put a saffron spin on this episode to imagine that. Thanks very much, all gentlemen, Manju Khajuria and Dishita Kumar, for joining me. I hope Things calm down, better sense prevails, and everyone responsible is behind bars.